Hello, my name's Abiel. I'm a student filmmaker, and this channel is about movie reviews. So, as the films go out, the reviews will go up. So, subscribe for more. All right, so I saw Fantastic Four First Steps yesterday, and I am absolutely shocked. I was not ready for an MCU versus DC summer, but here we are. If you have watched my review of the Superman film, then you already know that I felt like it was all over the place and the writing was very basic, but I enjoyed that movie. Like, I like Guardians of the Galaxy, and a lot of the exciting moments in that movie were straight out of Guardians of the Galaxy. So I felt like I enjoyed it as a fan of comic book films. But as a student filmmaker, I study this stuff, so it's hard for me to say that that was a good movie because I know it wasn't. So, Fantastic Four, thank you. MCU, yay! You did it. You made a movie. I'm so proud of you. I know you could. All right, so let's get into it because there's a lot to talk about. I want to just start out with something positive, something that I liked about the film. I really liked that they did stick to a lot of the Jack Kirby comics. I thought that that was really cool. I like the style and the look of the film. I'm sure that if you've seen the trailers, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's really cute and nostalgic, yet it's really modern in a lot of the representation of the characters, but we'll get into that later. I want to talk about the story's plot. So let's talk about how the movie starts. So the movie starts off with a quick flashback, letting the audience know who they are, who the Fantastic Four are, that they're scientists / celebrities. We see them in the Baxter Building. We see that they have this pet robot. We get to see just their lives and their family dynamic. This is the first act, and so it's a lot of flashbacks, and the pacing is really fast. And so it's a little hard to feel grounded in this first act because the pacing is fast, but there's not any action. So you're just watching a lot of some little small details that you need to know, but you already know because you've seen the Fantastic Four multiple times. This is the third movie at this point, but the pacing is so fast that it's hard to really feel grounded in the space. I wish that they would have maybe stylized the beginning a little bit more, just giving us something interesting so that our attention spans, or at least my attention span, would have been kept better. I felt myself yawning quite a bit in this first act. But let's go ahead and talk about the plot now. So the plot of the story is about a family and what people with immeasurable responsibility do when faced with a conflict that leaves them in a moral dilemma. Now, Mr. Fantastic, being their leader versus the rest of them, is really where this plot really lives. Yes, they have Galactus and Shia LaBeouf to deal with, but the story is really about the family dynamic and their conflict. With that being said, I do think that because the story lacks a strong arc, and when I say arc, this is the visual representation of what I'm talking about, an up and a down. So Sue, also Invisible Lady, is played by Vanessa Kirby, and this is obviously a spoiler review, she's pregnant and they're facing this immeasurable danger, and Reed is the father, of course, and he feels pressure. He's afraid. One, he's just afraid because he doesn't know what his child's going to be. And then when they find out that Galactus wants their baby, now he's afraid because he feels like he has to sacrifice the world for his child. And Sue, feeling that, knowing that, she feels like Reed has abandoned her and her child. And so this is where this arc is coming in. But the issue with that, that's a fantastic arc. That's so powerful. I think as human beings, we can all relate to feeling alone. The issue with that is that they really never address the concern after they fight Galactus that issue that they have is it's definitely heightened in the battle scene, but they never go back to that. They never address how Sue and Mr. Fantastic's relationship is. So the movie just ends kind of on like a what if question mark. But you could say, okay, well, that hypes you up to see the next one, but it kind of is a closed ending, which I don't hate it, but I do wish that it could have wrapped up that storyline, that arc better. Now that is my opinion on the plot. It was a great plot, but I just feel like they could have closed it off, because this is what the movie's been about the entire time, but they never really resolve it. So you're just like, dun, 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 dun. And if you're going to leave me on a cliffhanger, you should really like leave me with maybe them having a conflict or me knowing that there is an issue. They kind of just like clean it up and make it seem like everything is fine, but you know it's not fine because you just saw Reed like being a bad father in this battle scene. And you know that Invisible Woman had an issue with it because she expressed it before the battle. So it's just like, okay, well, how should I feel about this? I don't really know how to feel about this because they never expressed it to me how to feel, which is part of a movie, is they're supposed to let you know what the solution is to the problem. Okay, so back to something that, back to another issue that I had. Let me just go ahead and get my other issue out there. Is that another thing is that the movie represents family, which I've already talked about. But Sue gives a speech where she has they've taken the baby out to the public. The public knows that Galactus wants this baby. And so they're like boycotting, picketing at the Baxter building. And so Sue goes out and gives them a speech and says, you know, we're not going to give up on the world. The entire world is our family. Yet they don't really display that well in the movie. So the way that they're going to defeat Galactus, in theory, is that they're going to move the Earth. So they make these portals to move the Earth, but you really don't see a whole lot of that construction going on. There's a short scene where you see you see Ben with some construction workers making construction plans. But other than that, it's kind of like a very quick scene. And I wish that they would have brought the entire team out there, like had Reed out there doing his calculations. They had Sue out there making force fields and I don't know, Johnny burning up something. Like they could have incorporated the entire team and the world together to show that idea that they were united with the entire world as a family. It was a little too much of telling than showing in this film. They kind of cheated and rigged a lot of things, which I just felt was it was a cop-out, and it takes this movie definitely down a couple of notches in my mind. So the part of this movie that absolutely shines to me is when they go into space and Sue gives birth. That was so much fun, seeing her in their spaceship and Shia LaBeouf like chasing after them. That was definitely that science fiction Marvel-y stuff that everybody likes, but it didn't feel like it was copying from another movie. It felt very original, very exciting. I was absolutely shooketh when Shia LaBeouf reached into Sue's stomach. I was like, no, you're not going to rip her baby out of her. Like, this was like alien level, creepy, weird. It was totally awesome. I loved that scene. I thought everything in space was great. Minus Galactus, they just needed to do more with Galactus. They needed some tighter shots. They needed some better, impactful music. I did really laugh when Galactus was like walking in the street and he was getting ready to stop. And he was getting ready to stop into the little space where they were going to suck him into a portal. That was pretty funny. I thought there were some good scenes of Galactus, like when he jumps off the ship and he's like makes this big tidal wave and when his feet were stepping down. You know, there are some good like little spots where Galactus seems menacing, but overall, I think if you have like this giant like Galactus, we should be able to feel that. And yeah, it was just a missed opportunity, definitely, for the Galactus character. I didn't really feel like he was menacing. And that's a huge problem since he actually is very menacing. Sticking true to the original character, but they definitely dialed it down. I'm so glad that there wasn't a swarm of women, he was signing off autographs or doing any of that creepy stuff. But I'm glad that they gave him a role where he was able to use his brain. I just think that bringing him into the modern world and showing that people have different dynamics and different sides. And yes, somebody could be, maybe a bit of a ladies' man, but also be intelligent. I mean, that's so realistic. I think, in older films, they would just lean too heavily on tropes, and that's very cringy. So I really like the fact that they gave Ben some different perspectives. And I really like the fact that, I called him Ben. I like Johnny was intelligent this time around. I like that. Ben was this tough exterior on the outside, but on the inside, he was walking the streets of his old neighborhood, playing with kids, talking to the lady, possibly that might be his love interest in the later films. I really liked what they did with Ben as well. I thought that it was just enough. Like, everybody kind of got just enough camera time to me. And I liked each storyline. I thought that it was interesting and it was good. It was very much so into the present. And I wasn't cringing at all when they were fighting. I liked that. I thought that they handled each character well. So yeah, the Fantastic Four First Steps was definitely a comeback in my eyes for the MCU. I'm excited for this reboot. I know that they're going to oversimplify a lot of things, and I think that this is exactly the track they should be going on. So I'm looking forward to seeing when they add some more characters in, what is going to come from this. Like, I know that it's definitely going to be some more amped up storylines from here. So I'm looking forward to that. And I think that this is a great movie and it's going to be enjoyable. I don't think it's going to be enjoyable for everyone because it is more of a mature film, but I think that that's okay. We don't all have to agree. I think sometimes we can't just make movies for specific people. I think the problem is the fact that they're making movies for everybody all the time. Like, we don't all like the same things. So yeah, I think the Fantastic Four is a fun movie. It's definitely more on the mature adult side. And I'm looking forward to the Marvel reboot. It's hard to compare. Like, I want to say which one I prefer, Superman versus this new Fantastic Four. But honestly, they're such different movies. Obviously, this is just a better movie overall. But that one had a lot more fun action scenes in it. But I would just have to go with the Fantastic Four if I had to choose one or the other, because I think that this movie just has a solid plot. So, point blank, I have to go with plot. Just off of GP. You can't say that you prefer a movie with no plot, because at the end of the day, you might enjoy having fun, but a movie is about a story. And I think the Superman film had good intentions, but it just lacked this solid foundation. So, yeah, I was thinking about it because I was like, I feel like I should say that in my review since they both came out, so close together. They're in tandem, but yet they're just so different. They're just so different style-wise. But if I had to absolutely choose, I would have to go with the Fantastic Four. But check out my review of Superman as well. I didn't have too much to say because I felt like it was all over the place, but I liked what they were trying to do. And I thought it was fun. All right, so that sums up my review of the Fantastic Four. Thank you for watching and subscribe for more like this. Bye.